Survive and Advance on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Survive and Advance is brought to you by Replenishing Care. Make sure you check out the PEMF machine on our website. You can go to thegruelingtruth.net, click on the Replenishing Care banners. It'll take you right there. I'm your host for Survive and Advance, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host. He won a national championship playing for the Indiana Hoosiers in 1981 and is a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. Please help me welcome to the show, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great today, Mike. How you doing in beautiful Indiana?
Oh, yeah, it's beautiful in Indiana. It's actually raining, and it wasn't supposed to. And see, the bad thing about that is my son was supposed to work today, but he didn't get to because he was pouring concrete, so he's here. Not that I don't love my son. It's just sometimes he can be annoying.
I know. My son works all day, and he's in the movie business, so he's gone like at 5 in the morning and they get home till 9 at night on set. And the days he's here, it's like, get the hell out of here. He's not being here. But it's a joy to hear his stories he tells coming back from set with some of the actors. But anyway, out here in Los Angeles, it's a beautiful 75 degrees and sunny, not a cloud in the sky. It was that way yesterday. It was that way the day before. It's going to be that way tomorrow. And, you know, Mike, I am actually craving a weekend full of thunderstorms. I have not heard thunder since I moved out here.
All you got to do is move back, and you'll take care of that.
And I will never do that. So
there you go. So you don't have to worry about it. All right, let's start off. We're going to talk a little bit about sports news. I want to remind everybody you can hear us every Monday and Friday here on thegruelingtruth.net, Monday through Friday at noon every day. You'll get to hear all Steve's witty insights about all sports. So make sure you check us out every day at noon. Steve, let's go ahead. We'll start off. We'll talk about what the biggest sporting event is right now, which is the World Cup. And I know neither one of us are big soccer fans. I haven't watched much of it. I try every once in a while to try to understand. But as you said, even though the United States isn't in it, I mean, the story you told me last night about your golf club will tell you how big soccer is getting in this country.
Yeah. We went to the golf club yesterday to play, and you know, Bubba Watson is having a great day. We're up to winning his third PGA Tour. Every single television in the clubhouse had World Cup soccer on. I mean, you couldn't get them to change the channel. It was amazing. I walked in and said, "My God, what is going on here? Can somebody put the golf on?" Bubba's going nuts, and they're like, "No, we're all watching World Cup." You know, I went in at 7 o'clock in the morning, and there's World Cup soccer on at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was on all day. When I got off the course and left, the World Cup was still on. Well, so I it is big. I mean, you and I are not necessarily big soccer fans, although I did post on our website. You know, I put a picture up of the Mexican soccer team, and I sent a plea to President Trump that if he would please at least allow the Mexican soccer team to immigrate into the United States legally or illegally so they could go play for Team USA. And then we might have something to cheer about. They might all be Mexicans, but we could naturalize them and make them part of the USA soccer team. And maybe we'd all be cheering like the other people are.
I probably still wouldn't. Doesn't matter to me either way. But it is a huge event. You can cover it.
It is huge.
Phil Walton, who covers it. We've got the Last One's Kick podcast. So you can follow it there. It seems that Mexico is the big thing. But the one thing I have noticed about the World Cup so far is the fact that it hasn't gone according to plan, which will make it even more popular around the world. You've got Iceland tying, Argentina. You got Mexico 2-0, which nobody expected. So
right, Germany makes them kick with 30 seconds to go on an incredible play to save themselves from elimination. So it is pretty dynamic to watch the highlights. The problem is you got to get to the other 88 minutes of balls being kicked up and down a huge field with nothing really happening, guys standing around. And, you know, from what I've seen on the videos, I thought the flops were bad in the NBA. I think I now know where the NBA players are learning it from. They're watching soccer before games.
The soccer players are watching the NBA.
Watching the NBA, one of the two, but they're equal opportunity floppists, I tell you that. But, you know, the most amazing thing, to tell you how big soccer is, and this is the big piece of news of the whole thing, to tell you how big it is, there's a crisis right now in Russia. They have run out of beer. They did not anticipate this many people coming to Russia to watch the World Cup, and literally there is a beer shortage in Russia. And they're trying to get it shipped in or trying to make it as fast as they can, but people are going to bars and having to drink vodka, Russian vodka. Well, and I don't know how that's flying. No, nothing wrong with that at all. But there is a beer shortage at the World Cup.
All right, so I know we're going to start a NASCAR show soon. I know NASCAR is near and dear to your heart, as is all forms of auto racing. Martin Truex won in NASCAR. You want to go ahead and tell us what happened? Because I know there was 3 big races this week.
Yeah, in auto racing kind of was the American version of this is what the day is all about, because there were 3 races. Actually, for the first time in 10 years, the Formula One cars ran in France with the French Grand Prix being revitalized. Big controversy, Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas, 2 of the top 3 drivers for Mercedes and Ferrari took themselves out on the first lap. As you know, that race is designed to do, they go from a standing start, 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. And Lewis Hamilton, who's the defending world champion and the hottest driver on the Formula One circuit, those that care, won again. He's back in the lead in the points, and that's probably all you really care to know about it, because after the first lap, first time to the first turn, Formula One becomes pretty much a parade. I don't think Lewis was ever out of the lead. Nobody was able to catch him or pass him because those tracks were too narrow to allow passing. Much the same in Sonoma, California yesterday, where Martin Truex won, I think, for the 3rd or 4th time on a road course, which the very heavy NASCAR cars are not designed to do. And they're having much the same issues with NASCAR this year. We'll break that down more on our NASCAR show. The competition seems to be just continuing to drop off, which leads to attendance drop off, which leads to sponsors dropping off. And we've got a whole agenda lined up to talk about that. But Truex and Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch, 3 drivers who pretty much won all the races between those 3. And they're on the 3 super teams. So money's playing a big sport. I saw a part, believe it or not, that they did a segment, and this is how silly auto racing gets. They're talking about the jack, and they've got these jacks rigged up now so you can do 1 pump to get half the car off the ground, change tires, and do a 12-second pit stop. Well, they just discussed and showed they're now making carbon fiber jack handles, okay, instead of steel, because they save 3 pounds. It's easier for the guy to carry it around by saving 3 pounds, but the cost of the carbon fiber jack handle is somewhere between $800 and $1,500. So here's a sport where you could basically stick a broom handle in it and do the same thing. They're spending $850 to $1,500 on a jack handle, and it tells you where auto racing has gone to. And then the league that nobody cares about, the IRL, Indy Racing, Elkhart Lakes, Joseph Newgarden won there in another parade. The problem with auto racing is it's just become kind of a parade. They're trying to run on tracks that are too small to pass, can't get around each other, and the guys have got so much in sponsors they don't wreck each other anymore. But that's a different story. Other news to round out the basic sports: Bubba Watson won at the Travelers in River Highlands up in Connecticut. It's his 3rd PGA Tour win. He is the first PGA Tour golfer to win 3 times this year, and he won out in L.A. and he won I think somewhere else on the West Coast earlier in the year, and then he's won now on the East Coast. So he's having a breakout year, a banner year. And they're all starting to jockey now for Ryder Cup points to get on the Ryder Cup team. And they've got 8 events to go to get into the FedEx Cup, which is the one that pays a $10 million payout to the winner of the FedEx Cup. So that's pretty much it in golf. One last piece of news that will lead us into our guest and our discussion today is tonight are the NBA awards. And a little known fact, back in 1976, Oscar Robertson, often considered the greatest player to play the game, certainly the greatest player to come out of Indiana, is getting a Lifetime Achievement Award tonight by the NBA. Now, the significance of that is in 1976, Oscar sued the NBA to gain free agency, and he won. And most sports writers of that era and on further will lead you to the fact that pretty much began the demise of Oscar Robertson as a player in the NBA. They pretty well ostracized him for essentially creating free agency in the NBA. He pretty much vanished out of the league quickly thereafter.
Kurt Flood in baseball.
Kurt Flood in baseball, exactly. Probably used Flood's principles exactly and took him to the NBA. And there has been very little communication between Oscar and the NBA over the last 40 years. He has shown up at the obligatory 50th greatest players events and from time to time, and it's some All-Star Hall of Fame inductions. But Oscar's been pretty quiet to the NBA forever. And now here they are turning around and about face and being smart about it, and at least giving Oscar the recognition he deserves and due as a great player that he was. Still, I believe, the only player ever to average a triple-double for a season. Does he not?
Yeah.
Has anybody else topped that? I believe he still is the only player in the history of the NBA to average a triple-double, which is a pretty dadgum feat, considering we make a big deal about it when anybody does it one time.
Yeah,
So,
I still think that if somebody would have gave you a fair chance, that you would have been the second person to do it.
I sucked. I had a very bad case. Mike, I had a very bad case of white man's disease when I came out of college. I couldn't run, jump, or shoot. And that pretty well will kick you out of the NBA real quickly if you are athletic. Because those guys are all very athletic. So I lost out. I fit in the nice system pretty easily because you didn't have to be very athletic to beat the crap out of people, just big and strong. And I was good at that. But when it came down to skills, woo, I was a low man on the totem pole.
All right.
That's about me. But let's introduce what we're doing here for the rest of the show. That's news sports news in a nutshell, people. I have nothing more to add.
So where we're going with next, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll bring in NBA beat writer Bryce Fields to talk about last week's NBA draft and also to talk about the upcoming MVP vote tonight. So stick with us after this 42-second commercial, and we'll be back.
Replenishing Technologies helps athletes of all levels train, recover, and perform at their absolute best. We do this by offering the PEMF 120, the world's leading pulsed electromagnetic field therapy device. Workouts, injury, and stress cause cells to lose their natural power. PEMF works like a battery charger, helping cells regain the power needed to dump toxins, take in oxygen and nutrients, and repair. 95% of athletes report less pain, increased range of motion, more energy, and they simply feel better after using PEMF 120. If you'd like to count yourself among that group, contact us at www.replenishingtechnologiesinc.com.
All right, guys, we're back on Survive in Advance. I'm Mike Goodpaster, sitting here with former 1981 national champion. Well, not a former national champion. He gets mad every time I say that. Steve Risley. And Steve, last Thursday night we had the NBA draft, and because of that, we're going to welcome in. If you followed thegruelingtruth.net, you know Bryce had one of the best mock drafts out there, more accurate than most of the NBA guys. He's a student at Hanover College. I think he's a journalism major. Help me welcome to the Grueling Truth, Bryce Fields. How you doing, Bryce?
Good. How you guys doing?
Hey,
we're doing
good, Bryce. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, we're doing great.
Not bad.
And Steve, I'll let you go ahead and go first.
Yeah. Well, Bryce, before we get started on actually the player selection, can we talk a little about the fashion segment of the NBA draft that is now become a staple? You know, out here in LA, we have Red Carpet Entertainment News a lot, and I think they're getting ready next year to do a segment live from the red carpet with Kat Sadler and some of the other fashion design people out here to do talk about the fashions that they're now taking over part of the NBA. That was the most boring production I think I've ever watched in sports, and I sat through the entire draft.
Yeah, you told me you weren't a big fan of the spectacle of it, but I definitely can't tell you much about the fashion part of it. All I know is the trend that LeBron set by wearing the suit with the shorts that Trae Young decided to sport. I'm not a fan of those. I hope that those.
I was going to go there. I don't get that concept or look at all. I do not see anything relevant about a suit. And what did they say? LeBron's suit that he wore was valued at somewhere between $40,000 to $45,000.
Yeah.
By the time you broke down the bag, the shoes.
Yeah, I think I saw something where that didn't even count as $20,000 Rolex on his wrist. So
yeah,
not
exactly.
a cheap suit.
But you know what? When you make the kind of money LeBron does, now my question is, Trae Young, where's he getting that kind of money? I mean, aren't these guys still technically amateur athletes?
Sure they are, Steve.
That's true. That depends on where you're looking at. Maybe right. Oklahoma had a little
let's
extra.
Start off here real quick, Steve. Since we're talking about LeBron James and we're talking about Colin Sexton, we're always talking about where LeBron James may go, but the fact that they went ahead and didn't trade says to me that Cleveland may not be pursuing LeBron James as much as people might have thought, Bryce.
Right, and my question, Bryce, is I tried to watch the draft from a little bit different perspective to see kind of these things of where some players who were going to stay, who were going to go. Like in Dallas, you can pretty well figure Yogi Ferrell's out at Dallas, but the heavy guard drafting that they did, the jockeying for players, and then I said, okay, how is Cleveland and the Lakers or any of the other teams in the hunt for LeBron going to draft? And break that down for us before we get started and tell us if you can, if you saw any nuances or anything that suggests what either team might be thinking in the LeBron sweepstakes.
Yeah, so the Cavs with the 8th overall pick, they took Alabama freshman point guard Colin Sexton, who I'll get more into the details and my grades of all the teams' draft picks from Thursday night. But I liked Colin Sexton a lot, and I valued him higher than Trae Young because as the first point guard I thought should have been taken just because of how his presence on both ends of the floors, offensively and defensively. But as for picking to trying to keep LeBron in town for Cleveland, I didn't understand it. Colin Sexton's a guy who needs the ball in his hands to create, and as we've seen with LeBron and how it was with Kyrie Irving, another ball dominant guard, they don't mesh really well together. And obviously Kyrie didn't like playing the shadow and having to play behind LeBron so much that it led to him wanting to leave. So for the Cavs draft pick, I didn't like the Colin Sexton pick to keep him in town. But if they're thinking he's leaning to leave, I do like the Colin Sexton pick because I think he's a guy you can build around with a great work ethic, very athletic, and can be someone who can really help in the future. But I'm not sure if that's the LeBron pairing Cavs fans were looking for.
Right. Yeah. But universally, it seems like everybody said that Sexton was a great pick and probably a steal, maybe one of the better picks in the draft period, aside from his pairing with LeBron, but that it was a very good pick, and he's a very solid player and going to make pretty quick impact in the NBA, correct?
Yes, I absolutely think that. After watching him at Alabama, he was the guard who led Alabama when they were down 3 players. They were down to 3 players on the court against the 5, actually cut a 15-point deficit to single digits, and actually had a chance to win. He's the one who headed that, playing 3-on-5. So that's pretty incredible in itself. I think Sexton's a guy with great leadership. He's someone who will automatically step into a starting role probably. And as long as he can consistently hit an outside jump shot, he's definitely a perennial all-star here in a few years.
Yeah. Right. So regardless of Brian or not, it's a good deal. And for Cleveland,
yes,
Cleveland came out ahead and was a winner in this draft. Okay. Any other surprises?
As for in the early rounds, I will say, as I was mentioning Trae Young, I just don't know if I understood the Hawks draft strategy so much. A lot of analysts are saying that they like how the Hawks went guard heavy, taking Trae Young from Oklahoma, who was an incredible college player, but as we saw, averaged 27 points on around 23 shots. So not very. Now he was about the only most talented NBA ready player even close to that in Oklahoma. And then they went ahead later on in the first round to take Kevin Huerter from Maryland, another a shooting guard who's definitely a shoot-first kind of guy. And while I gave the Hawks a B for the draft, the biggest problem is they should have kept who they originally took, was Luka Doncic. The Mavericks definitely came out as the winners of that trade, taking Luka, who at 19 years old, youngest European MVP ever, or EuroLeague MVP, sorry. That could have been someone they could have built around, and at one point, I really wanted to drive home, which you didn't actually see a lot of this in this draft because there weren't many wings. But it's a forward wing heavy league. The best teams are led by those. You have people like LeBron James, obviously, and Kevin Durant who take teams to the finals. And then even younger ones like Giannis Antetokounmpo and things like that. I thought the Hawks taking Trae Young and Kevin Huerter both in the first round really didn't make a lot of sense when they don't have much wing presence, which is really what to me is the most important thing in the NBA right now.
Now, I'll tell you the thing that stood out to me the most, I think the best pick in this draft, or one of the best picks in the draft just because of the way it fits the roster, are the Boston Celtics and Robert Williams, who I think may be the missing piece there. I mean, he's a great defensive player. I really like the Williams pick, especially when you look at the roster that's going to be around him.
Yeah, I don't know if the Celtics can make a bad pick, as good as that basketball team is going to be and are right now. I mean, I agree with you, Mike, entirely. But I don't know if they could. could make a bad pick. I think anybody's going to come in and fit into Brad Stevens' system because he's only going to take kids with Ainge and him being, system coaches or players.
See, I don't agree with you because I think with the Celtics roster, as good as they are defensively, you're bringing right now a 6'10" athletic guy who can play defense. And when you match that up with the guards and the forwards they've already got playing defense, this is going to be the best defensive team, if they're not already, in the NBA.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I can jump in there quick. Yeah, I like the Robert Williams pick, especially where they got him. They got him 27th overall, I'm pretty sure. I thought Robert Williams, sophomore, coming out of college, actually lost draft stock. He was actually projected to go top 15 last year and then fell back this year after having a decent year but didn't live up to the hype. I thought he was a very much a win now pick for the Celtics, which I liked from them. There's all the you don't know if LeBron's coming or staying in Cleveland. A lot of people think that the Celtics would have came out of the East had Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward been there all year. I thought bringing in a big guy, it was definitely. Now I don't see a lot of upside for Robert Williams because I don't think he only shoots about 50% from the line, doesn't have a perimeter game very much, more of just a run the floor kind of big. But I think in the situation he'll be in with the Celtics, it'll be perfect for him. They'll be able to utilize him just defensively, get rebounds, run to the rim, just get dunks and easy things like that. I think they'll definitely utilize him the best ways possible. And as you're saying, I'm also pretty sure that Brad Stevens can make anybody work in his system. I think he's just an incredible coach.
Yeah. Good, Steve.
I think he's the best coach. He's the best coach. You can say Popovich and things like that, but I think Stevens is the future of the NBA, and you're going to see more teams. I also tried to watch how teams drafted. Are they drafting to try and build what Golden State and Boston are doing, or are they still going to stick to the star system, which a lot of the teams in the NBA are still sticking to, but they're going to slowly have to make that transition. And I think that's why there was a lot of pick on guards, too. Guards run offenses. Guards, bring cohesiveness and unity to the team. And they're the ones kind of the catalyst that makes everything else happen. But I think in terms of how Stevens is building the Celtics right now, you're starting to see a little bit of it in Philadelphia, and it's matriculating itself down to pretty much the Pacers showed a lot of team play. And it's almost like it's kind of a amorphous of the NBA now, away from that star system that pretty much saved the NBA, to coming back now to where you're going to see great teams as opposed to great players. Am I right there?
Yeah, I definitely say so. I think that the way the Warriors built their dynasty and built their team is something that everyone's now looking for, and that's why a lot of there's a lot of the unknown guys and things that are going more often. It's not just about picking like the Trae Youngs and the superstars of college basketball. Is they're saying that it's the diamonds in the rough that really make the team. Because I know a lot of people, even diehard NBA fans, not big fans of the super team, but you can't really blame the Warriors. I mean, they drafted Steph Curry in the first round, and a year or two later they take Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, the second round pick. They really just built it from the ground up, and you can't really blame them. And I think that's what teams are really looking at now, is that you can build through the draft. It's not, you don't need to be trying to do the LeBron and joining in Miami, joining Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, but you can really build it. And to keep going the Brad Stevens praise, I think he's doing an incredible job of it, working with getting the guys he wants in there. He's bringing in Jason Tatum, even Jaylen Brown, a bunch of young guys who are going to turn into stars. I think their teams are figuring out the best way and the most productive way to do that is through making good decisions on draft night.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, a team that I think really kind of followed that in this draft were the Mavericks. I mean, they got Luka, who I think is going to be a stud. You got Jalen Brunson, who was a winner at point guard, and then they get Spalding, and they get the kid that I can't pronounce his last name from Dayton, which I think are all really good pieces. They got four guys that could help them. And when you go the other way, you got a team like the Wizards, which is a playoff team that may be close to making the transition to a contender, and they picked Troy Brown out of Oregon. Their second-round pick made no sense to me. So to me, the Mavericks completely helped themselves, and the Wizards completely killed themselves.
Yeah, for my going back to my team grades, the Mavericks are one of two teams I gave A+ because one, I'm all on the Luka Doncic hype train. I think that someone that young that has shown he can do a little bit of everything. He scores on himself. He passes the ball incredibly. He's very unselfish. And at a 6'8" point forward guard type combo, he's the kind of guy that the Mavericks really went all in on, which they proved on draft night by giving up a later first-round pick just to move up to get him from the Hawks, that they think there is someone they can really build around. And then I did love that Jalen Brunson.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I did love the Jalen Brunson pick as well because, as Steve mentioned earlier, they have their two backup point guards, Yogi Ferrell, who's exceeded expectations for coming undrafted out of Indiana. He performed well. They're not looking to really want to pay him. So you bring in Jalen Brunson, a proven winner, a guy who will set the tempo and be reliable in that second unit for the Mavericks, was a perfect pickup for him.
All right, Steve.
Yeah, before we get into it, I want to ask you one more question. I'm just going to have you go through and rate all the drafts. But the question I had, and I picked up on this by listening to the announcers, and I kind of got wind because I was seeing a lot of players being taken by the team just before the team that really wanted that player. And then I started figuring out, why are they doing that? And then also they would trade to the team that wanted them. But then I figured out, tell us what happens in 2021 and why there was so much trading going around over one or two positions in the draft, and what teams were taking players that they knew other teams coveted. What were they trying to gain for all that? I know the answer to this, but I thought, Bryce, we'll let you go ahead and explain why there was so much jockeying going around to horse trade players that were just one or two positions apart being drafted.
Yep. Yeah, so you and I talked a little bit earlier that a lot of teams who were, especially the most obvious one you can see is the Hawks taking Luka Doncic, which there hadn't been a lot of talks about him going to the Hawks or anything, but it basically seemed like that the league knew, or the Hawks front office knew, that at 5 the Mavericks wanted him, and by taking him at 3, they were able to actually benefit more out of it. They get Trae Young, who could be a potential superstar guard, and they also get future draft picks. And then going along with those future draft picks here in a couple of years, which a lot of people were looking at in the 2020 draft picks that happened a lot in the second round for other future second round guys in a couple of years, is when the NBA is looking at getting rid of the age limit where players can come more out of high school. Teams were looking at picking up more guys who are coming out of high school, people with more talent and things like that. And they're thinking by loading up on these later round draft picks, they'll be able to see everything coming out of high school. Right.
So the overall benefit is Atlanta knew that Dallas coveted the kid Luke. Is that his name, Luke?
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic.
Luka Doncic. They coveted him. They knew he'd covered him, but then okay, so we'll say. But then Dallas takes around and takes Trey Lyles, don't they? So don't they swap back and forth? Is that how that works? But so I see a win-win for both of them, maybe a little bit. And going to address this, Atlanta's gotten what Dallas wants, but Dallas is fine. We'll trade you, but you got to give us some draft picks to compensate with that. And they get their picks for 2020. Now maybe Atlanta benefits because Trae Young or Trey Lyle goes 2 places lower in the draft, and maybe they offer him a little less money. Instead of being a number 3 pick, you're a number 5 pick. Now we're going to pay you as a number 5 pick, not as a number 3 pick. So that may mean, $500,000 a season or something like that right off the bat until he proves himself, whether he's worth it or not. Is there any truth to that too as well? I mean, it's manipulation on both sides of the ball there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's as much as the NBA. They're not scared to throw their money around a little bit. So yeah, they get to pay Trae Young a little less. But I didn't love Trae Young. I didn't think he should have gone as a top 5 player, and probably would have gave the Hawks a lower grade for it. But they still get a top 10 talent in Trae Young. And then it was purely just strategy by taking Luka Doncic, someone they knew the Mavericks would go after. They knew Mark Cuban down there in Dallas was going to pull out all the stops to get him. They knew that they take him, they get Trae Young and future draft picks. I thought it was a smart move by them because one player's not going to change everything for him. It's very, very not a great or a great team down there right now. But I thought that the trade was good by just trying to prevent them from getting the guy they wanted, and then kind of having a hostage negotiation by taking him.
Right. So let me ask you one more question. Do you think that the Mavericks, you give the Mavericks a high grade for drafting in this draft? Do you think that they were smart enough to make sure Cuban was filming Shark Tank or whatever, and was out of the picture when they were making their decisions to draft, and kept that idiot out of the loop. Just said, hey, go do your TV show. We'll handle the draft. And all of a sudden now, he's doing a TV show in L.A., and the Mavericks are having one of the best draft years they've had in a long time. Sorry to listen to Mark.
Yeah, that probably was what it was. They're probably just looking out for themselves by having he has a lot of other affairs besides the Mavericks. So get someone more time allocated to that.
Yeah. Okay, why don't you just run us through? Why don't you just go through all the teams now and just kind of, in a nutshell, take us through and any highlights. Just go through the entire league. Just give us a grade and any one or two pointers from each draft, what our expectations are, what they did good, where they missed the boat, who they should have taken, and we'll leave the floor to you. Mike, you got anything you want to add first?
I just want to know why Trevon Blewett didn't get picked.
Yeah, I kind of question about that too. I coached that kid in the AAU. He's a damn good ball player, and I was disappointed that somebody didn't take a chance at him.
He'll make it
he will. I think he's already signed with the team, hasn't he? New Orleans thinking for a summer league. Yeah, the kid's got heart. I mean, he can play. And he stayed 4 years. That shows a lot about his character right there. Either that or it shows the NBA had no interest in him. One of the two. Usually when players stay 4 years, it's because the NBA has said you need to stay 4 years and get a college degree. You probably aren't playing in the NBA. All right, I'll shut up. Go.
All right, so I'll kick this off, but he never does it. Go ahead.
I'll be waiting for him to interject here. So I'll start off, just go alphabetically down the list here. Start off with the Hawks. I've basically said my piece on them. Gave them a B draft rating for taking Trae Young and Kevin Huerter. They're both good guards, two guys who I think the league is dominated by three-point shooting now, perimeter shooting. So the better shooters you have, and they really have, besides Dennis Schroeder, who has publicly said when he visited his home country in Germany that he wants out of Atlanta because he wants to play for contender. It completely made sense why they took him. Young and Huerter. The only reason I gave him a B and not an A was because, to me, the league is dominated by wings. All the best teams are ran by great wing players. You have the Kevin Durant. You have LeBron James. You have Kawhi Leonard before the whole debacle in San Antonio has gone on. You have Giannis and other people like that. I thought they should have went and tried to get a centerpiece wing, who I think Doncic will be. Next, Celtics, already talked about them with Robert Williams. Give them a B for it. I like Robert Williams. I love the fit for him. I just think that, and the reason why he didn't go earlier is he's just not a centerpiece guy. He's a guy who'll come off the bench early for the Celtics and give them good quality minutes with defense, rebounding, and high percentage shots.
Bryce, would it be fair? Let me ask you one question. Would it be fair to say that a team drafting as late as the Celtics, a B is a pretty damn good grade for them because they're obviously drafting. Yeah, and so for a team that late in the draft, for you to give them a B or an A or minus or something along those lines is pretty strong. In other words, they got what they needed and they got a good fit for their team. And correct. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I pondered about giving them a B plus, A minus range. The only thing, they all have young talent. They don't need another superstar centerpiece guy, which at their pick they weren't going to be able to get anyway. I thought Rob Williams was a good solid pick. I thought he'll be come in, be a backup big for them from day one. And I also think that Brad Stevens will get to maximize his potential. So later on, once the season comes, if Williams can be a 10-point, 10 rebound guy off the bench, then that grade probably becomes more closer to an A. But yeah, I definitely.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Who emerges as the star of the Celtics? Is it Kyrie? Is it Gordon Hayward? Who are they going to have one? Or are they just going to be five guys that go out and play ball together? But is somebody going to emerge as a star player off the Celtics franchise?
Well, I think I think that it doesn't need to be, as we've seen, in the recent years. You can have several stars on one team, and them all show that. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, that combination shows it more than anything. Both of them averaging more than 25 points in the playoffs a game. Steph averages, almost 10 assists. Kevin Durant, 10 rebounds. I think that if I had to pick, I think Kyrie Irving definitely will be. He'll be one of the stars I would pick for the team. And then a lot of other people, and Kyrie's already showed it this year and previous years. He's got the clutch genes, been in the big situations. He scores with the best of them. He's a great facilitator. And a lot of other people think that Gordon Hayward, but I just don't know if I value Gordon Hayward as much as the young guy in Jason Tatum. And I can tell you why.
I don't value Gordon. Gordon Hayward's a quiet scorer. He gives you 20 points a game, but I watched the Jazz play the Clippers a year and a half ago, and his points were so quiet, you actually almost didn't even know that he was on the court. And it's always good to have somebody score 20 points a game for you. I get that. But I don't think he scores very effective points often. He just puts points on the boards. But he's a great team player, and he'll do whatever it takes to win.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think that Gordon Hayward is, and I think he's a solid one option on a team like the Jazz that were just coming up. He's a decent two option, like most people projected him to be on the Celtics this year. But I think he's the perfect third option on the team. He's reliable. He won't make bad decisions. He can shoot. He can score. But I just don't put him there with the elite of the forwards, which is where I think that Jason Tatum is heading. I think Jason Tatum is the complete package and very well could have been the best player to come out of last year's draft class. He showed this year, stepped in as 19 years old, comes in the playoffs and just dominates. Scores from the perimeter, hits jump shots, already has an incredible post game. I think him and Kyrie will be the two ones leading the Celtics in this charge they have in the next few years, becoming the best in the East.
Yeah, as we move on, we need to. But the biggest problem I see the Celtics having in the next few years is keeping that team together. Players going after money at some point, the success that team's going to have. And for all you Boston fans listening out there, you're welcome. We're going to catch a lot of crap from the Philadelphia fans, I'm sure, down the road. All right, go ahead.
So I got a little. The Nets were the next one on the list, and they took Denzon Musa and out of Bosnia, and they took another Ronios Kirkos, I think. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly, but who was a European stash player. He's still under contract over in Europe for the next couple of years. So thinking maybe they'll go get him. I messed around thinking give him like a B-, something like that. But honestly, I had to give him a question mark because they're taking these two European players, and I mean they weren't super highly touted or anything like that. I think Musa, from what I've read on the scouting reports, he's about a 6'7" shooting guard, small forward combo, who's a very smooth shooter, very lanky, but he doesn't really bring a whole lot else to the table as far as I can tell. All the scouting reports only talk about his shooting. So the Nets probably got a B, but I got a little B question mark because it could turn out a lot of different ways. Then next I got the Charlotte Hornets, who I gave them an A- for their draft. I'm I use my team, college basketball, Big Ten guy, and they took Miles Bridges. They actually took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they traded that for the next pick back to the Clippers and got Miles Bridges, and I think a couple future second round draft picks. I like Bridges for their team for a couple reasons. They got a couple guys on that team, some 4 wing players in Nicholas Batum and Marvin Williams, who I think who have big contracts that they don't want, and they need to be looking to get rid of those. And Bridges is a creator, as he showed at Michigan State. He's a guy who can get the ball in his hands and can get to the basket and get a bucket for himself. He showed he was a decent passer in college, and I thought that someone only at 20 years old was a good guy that the Hornets can build around. In the second round, they took Javonte Graham, senior guard from Kansas, who I did like. I'm all right with the pick. There weren't a whole lot of options there that I thought they really could have gone with. But I do wonder if them taking Graham, who's going to be coming in already be 22 years old, a veteran guard, could be someone. Does that signal that Kemba Walker is on his way out of Charlotte? Kemba Walker is a guy who said he wants to play for a good team. He loves Charlotte. He's the all-time leading scorer, I think. But I think this pretty much signals that they're looking to stockpile some guards who can platoon while they start shopping Kemba Walker to a better team. Next,
if nothing else right now, it gives them a good backup for Kemba Walker, which gives them a little bit more
exactly.
depth.
Right.
Bryce,
is Jordan proving to us all that he's a better player than front office man with the Hornets? Should they be achieving more? Should we have more expectations of that franchise given the fact that it's got the Jordan touch on it? Is he succeeding or failing in Charlotte?
They've just made some very questionable moves in Charlotte. Michael Jordan has running the operation down there. Couple things. The Kemba Walker drafting him, which obviously turned out perfectly for them. He's a franchise guy and everything. Who they built around. I think he's 28 years old now. But as I said, they gave a couple huge contracts to Batum and Marvin Williams that just didn't really seem to make any sense. And they've just been the worst place to be in the NBA is mediocre. If you're there's the contending teams and all the better teams, and then there's the guys who are rebuilding, all the ones tanking. And at least as the Sixers have shown, tanking can at least get you somewhere. Being where Charlotte's been average, a couple of years, or they made the playoffs one year, borderline playoff team. This year doing way worse. I think that it needs to be complete rebuild. They just need to get rid of the contracts, get rid of the players, stockpile draft picks, and Michael Jordan needs to have a little thought process that this is not a winning team right now, not even a winning culture, and they need to do something about that soon, which is why I think Kemba is probably out the door.
Fair. Yeah, I would agree with that assessment. But that's the case for most of these guys. It still remains to be seen what Magic's going to do with the Lakers. I mean, these guys are great players for a reason, but they play the game at such a high level, and their expectations are so different than everybody else that they don't understand often why other players, either as executives or as great players, other players can't live up to their level of play. And they make decisions based on how they play the game and not based on what the culture of the team is. And I think that happens. And it's going to be interesting to watch the Lakers, even with whatever talent they get, if Magic can, as an executive in that organization, the executive in that organization can, create that Showtime culture again. There's guys like Jackson and Pat Riley who were masters at doing that. Stevens is a master at creating that culture. So we'll see. So I think Jordan has not done the job I would have expected him to do there. But anyway, like I said, mediocre, I believe you say is a very difficult place to be because you're not getting the low picks and you're not getting the superstars wanting to come to your franchise. So you're kind of just in no man's land for the rest of your life. You're eternally stuck there. I agree. Next.
All right. I'll move on here to the my emphasis on that. My Chicago Bulls, who took Wendell Carter Jr. from big man out of Duke, who's alongside Bagley, and Chandler Hutchinson out of Boise State. I gave him an A- for the draft, a little higher than a lot of other teams have been going, but I like him for a few reasons. I think Wendell Carter, while he may not have the star potential that a couple other teams have had, or a couple other players have had, he's a guy he's going to be all in. I mean, he went to Duke this year knowing he'd be, Bagley would dominate the headlines. You got Grayson Allen. You had, Gary Trent Jr. who went in the second round, and he was just a glue guy. Came in there, played incredible defense, go in there and be solid, and would give you. I think he averaged 13 and 10 as being the third or fourth option. I think he comes to Chicago and he's paired along with rookie or now second year Lauri Markkanen, who panned out way better than a lot of Bulls fans thought were going to be as a stretch 4 or 5 guy. I think that young duo down low will give him a promising start going forward. I also a lot of people, which Chandler Hutchinson, not really well known. Probably I don't catch a lot of Boise State basketball games, but after taking a long look at him, I thought that Chandler Hutchinson really has a makeup to be a guy who can be a pretty solid role player. He's a 6'7", versatile scorer, averaged 20 points, 10 rebounds last senior year at Boise State, and I think he, especially in the situation he's going to come into in Chicago, where they don't have any really in-depth forward. They have guys like Justin Holiday, who's going to be trade bait this year at the deadline. They have Denzel Valentine, who just has not panned out whatsoever. I think he's going to get a chance to start early, and as long as if he can be efficient, I think he's going to have a lot of success. And if I had to draw a comparison, he has the best chance of being this year's Kyle Kuzma from the Lakers, who came in late. Not a lot of people knew him. Knew he was good in college, but as a 22-year-old, you don't know how much he can develop. And immediately came in and became a scorer that can an NBA-level scorer.
Yeah, well, my concern with the Bulls is I think it was you had Michael Porter and Kevin Knox there. I think with Carter and Hutchinson, I think they took the safe picks.
Yeah, I would definitely. I'd agree with that, and that's what a lot of people have been saying. I was all aboard the Michael Porter Jr. train for a few teams. I thought that a 6'10" scorer like that could completely change the dynamic, a Kevin Durant type player potentially. But I thought they went with safe picks, and for the Bulls, I don't know how much you guys follow the Bulls as much as I have over the few years, but the front office has made some very questionable decisions that fans have not really agreed with, and they haven't panned out. So I think by going safe in this draft was actually the right thing coming out of Chicago, because they needed some wins. And even these guys will, at least I don't think, have the opportunity to be huge busts. They might not be the next stars of the team. They might not be the Lauri Markkinen that you're trying to build around, or Zach LaVine, but they definitely give you some pieces.
All right, what do you got next?
I basically covered the Colin Sexton. I initially wrote down, I got for the grade, since Sexton is the only one they took in the draft, I gave him a C if LeBron stays, but B+ if he leaves. And basically for the reasons I already said. Sexton's a guy who wants the ball, who's going to need the ball in his hands to be the most productive and be the best he can be. And I think B+ rating, because if LeBron leaves, he can come in and be the guy who, grabs the team by the reins and can really direct them while they're rebuilding. But I think if LeBron stays, maybe he's the guy that comes off the bench and runs with LeBron coming starting, and maybe he can run that second unit. But as far as anything else, I didn't really love the pick from them. I didn't think it was trying to a win now situation, which is why I believe that maybe LeBron is out the door.
All right, what do you got next?
Mavericks, we already covered them. Luka, Jalen Brunson, one of the two teams I gave A+ because I think Luka's the player of the future. I actually think he's going to be my very, very bold prediction of him being Rookie of the Year, because he's going to be given full control to be his team from day one. I think he'll at least put up the numbers to get it, and I think he's the guy going forward they're going to love.
It's almost like they're trying to keep the Dirt and the Whiskey legacy going with him.
Yeah,
they've had such a great love affair with Dirk, and there's a deal where they think they can just continue that legacy of that big, strong white European player come in there and carry the load. And the city loves Dirk. I mean, it's one of the richest men in the NBA, believe it or not. I mean, he's been there 20 years, and the money he's made.
20 years.
I think he's like the third highest paid overall player in the history of the NBA. So good for him. The guy's been a great player. Even at 40, he's still a great player. So, with what he's gone through injury-wise and the crappy teams he's played on for a lot of his time.
Yep. Yeah, definitely one of the most respectable guys the NBA's ever seen. Stuck around just because he likes to mentor the young guys and show he's still got a jump shot. Next, I got the Denver Nuggets, who I gave an A, because Michael Porter Jr., one of the biggest stories of the draft, sliding all the way down to 14th after injury concerns about his back that he made him miss almost his entire freshman year at Missouri, and a hip injury that he got during pre-draft workouts. I think that the Nuggets were the perfect team that could take a chance on him. I understood why a lot of teams passed on him. You have rebuilding teams almost all the teams in the top 7 picks who needed solid guys who can come in and be there now. But you fall down the Nuggets, who were going to be a 6-7 seed in the playoffs until they completely just fell off the map the last month of the season. They can take them. They have guys like Jamal Murray and Gary Harris and a couple other and Nikola Jokic, who can run the team now and give Michael Porter Jr. that chance to ease his way back into it. There's reports that he might not even play this year, which Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid have showed it's not that big of a deal. They can come back and make a great impact. I thought they were the perfect team to be able to take a chance on him, on a 6'10", lanky scorer like Porter Jr. can be.
But I just want to say, I'm out here in Los Angeles. My bestest friend in the world, Steve Alford. I think Thomas Welsh is the sleeper pick of the entire NBA draft. I think getting him at 57, 58, the 4-year center at UCLA, Steve gushes over him, and I think that he's going to contend for Rookie of the Year.
Really? I think you're nuts. I think he's lucky to make the team. He's lucky to make the team. Quit kissing Steve Alford's ass, Steve. You've got to ring just like he does.
Come on, man. Caitlyn Jenner goes to UCLA games. I got to go check out Caitlyn Jenner. So she goes to the UCLA games.
Bryce,
so
you may
I got to get tickets from Alford.
Transition out of this real quick.
Anyway, next we'll get away from that. We'll go with the Detroit Pistons, who took Kyrie Thomas as a 3-year guard out of Creighton and Bruce Bowen Jr., the 2-year guy out of Miami, which was really it was a peculiar draft, but one that I actually really liked, gave him a B+. The Pistons have had with Van Gundy there, it's been quite frankly, it's been a shit show with everything that's been going on. They've not made great draft picks. They for some reason, decided to go get Blake Griffin during the year, and trade future draft picks, which made no sense to me either. because they're not a team that's contending right now. Blake Griffin, injury-riddled star. But I actually like picking Tyree Thomas and Bruce Bowen Jr. Tyree Thomas was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year in the Big East at Creighton. Bruce Bowen Jr. sat out most of this year due to injury, but both guys who really focus on defense. I think they're two guys who come in probably off the bench, I would say, unless they show a little more, but will be guys who will really contend for time with other guards they have right now, like Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson, because they're guys who value defense and shooting. So I think if they can come in and be a backcourt that, will pride themselves on, playing hard, playing with a good motor, that there'll be guys that will end up being, they'll look back and go, those are solid picks out in this draft.
Yeah, they got great bang for their buck there, and I think both of those guys will contend for Rookie of the Year. Go ahead. What do you got next?
Got the Warriors next, who, they could have just traded, they could have not taken anybody and they're still fine. But they took Jacob Evans out of Cincinnati, which I gave him a C plus for it because Evans could be a nice 3-and-D guy in the NBA. But with a team like that, I thought they could have taken a chance on more of a project guy, somebody who could come in, they can shape and form in the G League or in practice into somebody could be a star of the future, or someone that maybe helps more right now. But Jacob Evans, even for being a 3-and-D prospect, he plays fine, played solid defense at Cincinnati and liked him, but only shot 37%, I think, from three. So not someone who I think comes in and throws in a Nick Young swaggy P role or anything. But to be fair, they get a draft pick every year. They had to pick somebody. They didn't need anybody, so it wasn't really a big deal.
Yeah, and they need as many young guys on cheap contracts as they can get. Evans is a good defender. He may help them there, but it doesn't matter what Golden State does. They just keep the 12 guys they got. They'll just keep winning. Go ahead. What do you got next? The Houston Rockets?
Yeah, I got the Rockets who took DeAnthony Melton from the point guard from USC, who was probably a guy who fell off a lot of radars since he had to sit out this year with a little USC scandal having to do with, recruiting and the coaching staff and things like that, which forced him to sit out. So he averaged, I think, 8.6 assists, somewhere in that range his freshman year, and showed a lot of promise. I think he's come into a perfect situation with Houston. He's going to be he's a ball dominant guy who's a distributor, and will come in and be that backup for Chris Paul, which he probably will resign in Houston, as far as anyone else can tell. That Melton will come in and be a guy that can run that second unit and be a reliable guy. So I gave him a B+ for that pick.
Yeah, I love that pick. I think he's kind of a Marcus Smart kind of player who can impact the game on both sides. Yeah,
I definitely think so. He's somebody who can help, I think, immediately and helps him become an even better championship team.
All right, next up we got the Indiana Pacers, who all real Americans cheer for, not the Chicago Bulls.
Well, so sorry about that, all right. But, yeah, they took UCLA guard Aaron Holiday, who I know you're really high on, Steve, but I am too. He's a 6'1" guard, so a little undersized, but someone who can, I think, definitely will help off the bench, being a volume scorer in a backcourt that, once Oladipo comes out, loses a lot of firepower. And I think it's someone I just really like.
Yeah, I actually, went to several UCLA practices, and he's the antithesis of Ball. And I, in my own mind, really felt if I was going to pick a team and put a player on it, I would take Holiday over Ball. Ball comes, Ball's a great player. I'm not going to deny that, but his work ethic was not strong in practice at UCLA.
He didn't
commit to. Yeah, he has the baggage with him, but Holiday is a kid that comes out and, he bled sweat on the court the entire time he was practicing, worked hard at his game, was very coachable. And I think the Pacers are going to be really, and the city of Indianapolis is going to be really happy with that pick. And then with TJ Leaf last year, I joked to Alford, I'm like, dude, Pacers are just becoming UCLA East if this keeps going. You need to trade for the next Rookie of the Year, Thomas Welsh. Get all three of them on there. And I think the Pacers are in the East. And then maybe bring you in to coach. Bring Alford down there to coach, and he gets back to Indiana.
If they bring Steve Alford in to coach, the Pacers will never sniff the playoffs. They'll be in the damn lottery.
Come on.
He'll be over there bitching at the officials instead of coaching. Go ahead.
I felt bad for the kid sitting there as the only kid in the green room, not picked yet. And I think I was so pleased when the Pacers took him. And I think the Pacer fans, he's going to fit a need real quick, and he's going to play. Whether he starts or not, I don't know, but he's going to get a lot of minutes, and I think he's going to be an impact player this year for the Pacers. And they sorely need a good point guard on that basketball team. That was what they were lacking throughout the year. So I like that pick. How'd you rate him grade-wise?
So actually, I have another one of the writers who's going to help me with a lot of the college coverage and draft coverage and stuff. Braden Luce. I had him actually look at the Pacers a lot. Pacers fan, Indiana guy, and he gave him an A-, and I agree. I think Holiday was a great pickup, especially being late in the first round. I thought he was somebody who'll come in and he'll help a lot. And then the Elise Johnson, actually, and the two they took in the second round, probably a guy who's starting in G League, but a guy who maybe find some minutes. He's a big 6'8" forward. If he can hit a three, he might be able to help out. So thought they had a good draft, gave him an A-.
All right, you get the Clippers next.
Yeah. The Clippers, they took. They traded for the rights to get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out of Kentucky, who I like him. I actually like him a lot. He's a guy who 6'6" guard who give teams trouble on both ends of the floor. Thought he's a decent guy. And then they took right after that 12th and 13th pick. They took Jerome Robinson, the Boston College phenom, who I didn't understand that one so early, especially with the guy who's taken after him, Michael Porter Jr. The Clippers are and they're one of those teams that are average right now, but they go ahead and take two guards back to back. One who, Gilgeous-Alexander has a chance to be good. I think Jerome Robinson, potential 3-and-D guy. I don't think he's going to pan out to be that much of a success. A lot of people projecting he'll be in the G League all year. I thought they should have taken Michael Porter Jr. there instead of another guard to fill in a backcourt that already has Austin Rivers, Patrick Beverly, Milo Sadovich, Lou Williams. I thought that they should have went with a wing player. I definitely thought they should have went Michael Porter Jr. The Gilgeous-Alexander, I think, is a B pick, but the Jerome Robinson, who and when he was taken, I ended up with a C-.
All right, so next up we got the L.A. Lakers, and before you bring up, their first-round pick was on the team that Steve Risley said would beat Villanova in a national championship game, when I said Villanova would win the game easily. Go ahead.
Just make that point clear, right? Make sure everybody
I like
knows.
to bring that up at least once a week so everybody remembers.
I hear it every day. Okay, I missed
I haven't
the
even
pick.
brought up your
All
pick
right.
of Cleveland over Golden State when I said Golden State wins in 4 or 5, and you picked Cleveland. So,
Well, you're right there. All right, you're 2-2 against me.
Yeah, but I gave
season.
Lakers a B.
It's a long season, Goodpaster.
yeah.
I gave Lakers a B. I like the Mo Wagner pick. I was caught off guard a little bit, but what are they really looking for there? Right now out in LA, they're banking on getting some stars and LeBron, Paul George, maybe Kawhi. So they weren't looking to add a bunch of wing depth. They already have Kyle Kuzma and Brandon Ingram. So the Mo Wagner, I actually read a stat today online that he was like 98th percentile in spot up 3-point shots. Honestly, a really good perimeter shooter. Who I think that could be a guy who comes in off the bench, maybe a stretch 5, who will give him some solid minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing is all of us being Hoosier fans, I think Thomas Bryant was on their G League team and played, and I think it kind of signals at the end of Thomas Bryant then at that point if they invest a first round draft pick on Mo Wagner, I think Thomas probably is going to be done for the Lakers. And he got some minutes in the NBA. He played. They brought him up probably about a third of the games, and then he did well in the G League out here in Los Angeles. And I thought he showed some promise, but I have a feeling now it's not going to be with the Lakers any farther down the road for him.
All right, Bryce, what grade did you give the Lakers?
Gave him a B. I thought it was a safe pick. They really couldn't have went wrong there, I don't think, because it's not like Mo Wagner's come in and be the difference maker for the Lakers or anything, but I thought it was a solid pick.
All right, what about the Memphis Grizzlies? They took Jaren Jackson. They took Javon Carter. I know Carter's a guy I like defensively, but overall, I don't think the Grizzlies made much sense here.
Yeah, here's the first problem. You can hardly even grade the draft picks without just grading the franchise right now, which is just an F. It's just a big F. That no one wants to they didn't want to even give you had players like Mo Bamba wouldn't even give him his physical information because he doesn't want to go to Memphis. He sees how they treated David Fizdale, who was coaching a terrible team, and then because Marc Gasol, an aging star who's going to be on his way out, he somehow gets him kicked out because I mean it's a rebuild. You have to be able to go along with the process. I gave him a C+ for the draft. I thought that with their pick, I thought they should have traded their pick back. Maybe go down a couple years, have some young. They'll have early picks later on. They're not going to be good for years to come. I thought that they could have maybe passed up, let somebody else get ahead. Maybe they could have done a deal with the Mavericks or something, maybe trying to get closer to Doncic or anything. But, I mean, Jaren Jackson Jr., I like him. He can be a two-way guy. I think he'll come in, he'll give a good defensive presence. But if you're taking a top 5 pick, in my opinion, you got to go with a absolute franchise-changing guy. And I just don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. is that kind of guy.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Javon Carter's a guy I think is the best perimeter defender in the draft, though. I think he was a good pick. I think Jackson was a huge stretch.
Yeah, I thought the Javon Carter is, I think the fine pick. I think especially in later draft picks, I'm all for, taking a chance on an older guy or a guy with intangibles, things like that, because they don't really pan out that well anyway. But I thought, be a guy to come in, as long as he can come in. A big thing will be knocking down shots. If guards come down and hit, even if they're not, main ball guys, if you can let somebody else drive and kick it to you and hit it, and you can play a little defense, that's something teams really like in the NBA.
All right. Next up, we had the Heat. But
yeah, they had no picks. One of 2 teams that didn't have any picks. I still gave them a B draft grade because I thought that the Heat, if they would have traded into the draft by giving up future picks or anything, I thought that would have kind of been a waste because I don't think there's anybody they could have taken to put them over the top this year. So I gave them a B for no picks. Said it was a good call, probably staying out of the draft.
All right, next up we got the Milwaukee Bucks who took Dante DiVincenzo.
Oh yeah, took DiVincenzo. I gave them an A- for it, which might be a little bit of a stretch, but anybody who watched March Madness this year has to be all aboard the Dante DiVincenzo hype train. Came in, was a 6th man of the year for Villanova, brought the energy. You had a 30-point performance in the national championship. Looked like he couldn't miss. It's exactly the kind of guy Milwaukee needs. They need a guy who'll come off the bench behind Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, come in and give them all he's got. Can definitely make a jump shot, and he might be a little undersized, but he's got crazy athleticism. And the Michael Jordan of Maryland will be somebody who will come in and be an instant contributor for that Bucs squad.
All right, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I gave them an A- before their picks of Josh Okogie, and then the guy I thought who will be the steal of the draft, and another Big Ten bias, obviously, and Keita Bates-Diop. But, the T-Wolves right now, they have stars on their team in Jimmy Butler, Andrew Wiggins, Karl-Anthony Towns, the guys who are going to lead it. They needed some filler guys. Both these guys are guys who I think will immediately come off the bench for them this year since, the T-Wolves or Thibodeau was running them 40-plus minutes and killing guys' legs out there, enough to make Jimmy Butler not even want to play in the All-Star game so he could take a night off. I thought that Okogie and Bates-Diop, Okogie, he's a 3-and-D guy. I think that he'd come in and he won't be the creator or anything. Won't be the big most the greatest showing out there on the court, but be solid. And then I think Bates-Diop has a real potential to be just a second unit, just go-to guy. Big front, wide shoulders, 6'7", 6'8", and can be a guy who can scores from the shoulder, can score from the wing, and guy who dribble or takes to the hole well. Loved him. Thought he'll be the steal of the second round. And gave him an A-.
All right, the New Orleans Pelicans picked Tony Carr from Penn State. This is a guy to me that's kind of hit and miss. He's not real consistent.
Yeah, he's not. But a 6'5", 200 big point guard, someone who I do kind of, if he can run that pick and roll with Anthony Davis, he'll be somebody who he'll be a big guy and be tough for guards. He'll be even a matchup problem for the bigs. If he can get in there, run a little bit with Anthony Davis, he might be decent. Thought the Pelicans really didn't have a lot of options here, so I thought Tony Carr was fine. Give him a B because again, a little Big Ten bias. Had to give the Penn State guy a little credit, but I think he could turn out to be all right.
All right, let's see, we get the New York Knicks.
Yeah, the Knicks surprisingly, after all reports said they were going to go with Villanova's Mikal Bridges, they took Kevin Knox out of Kentucky, and then Mitchell Robinson, the guard who was going, the center who was going to Western Kentucky, hated it, dropped out, and then just took a year off before getting drafted. Gave them a B for it because it could definitely, Kevin Knox was the youngest guy, only 18 years old in this draft, is a guy who went from being a second-round pick all the way to a top 10 pick for his pre-draft workouts because of work ethic, how he was actually more athletic than people were giving him credit for, and that stretch 3-4, it's like I said, wings dominate the league, and he's a 3 stretch 4 guy who's a very you can utilize for a lot of different things. I like that pick. I thought a lot of people thought that they should have went with Bridges, but I thought this was a fine pick for the future since they're still not even you put anybody on that team right now and they're still not winning a championship or anything. I thought it was a good pick. Mitchell Robinson, who I covered a little bit. I covered a little bit earlier in the year talking about his decision to not go to Western Kentucky and just take the year off. I actually watched a video. He can take one dribble from the opposite three-point line and dunk the basketball. That is how big and long he is. I think he has a chance to, if he can show off the athleticism, he'll be a steal that they took in the early second round.
All right. What about the Oklahoma City Thunder?
The Thunder, I give them a C+ for taking Hamid. I don't know if I can say this one, but Hamid Diallo out of Kentucky, Melvin Frazier, and Justin Jackson. They had a lot of picks. I thought they went with a few projects. I mean, they're not guys. I don't foresee Diallo maybe off the bench. I think Jackson and Frazier from Tulane, they end up in the G League for most of the year. I think that give him a C+. I think Diallo has an upside. He's young if he can shoot, but they really weren't doing much there.
All right, number 22, or let's see, where are we at here? The Orlando Magic. The Magic were a team that had a terrible offense last year, and I don't think they really helped it that much here because their perimeter shooting, I think, needs to be upgraded big time, and I don't think there's a lot here. I mean, Bamba's, I just don't get what they did here.
No, I thought for a team they do have a couple decent young pieces in, you got Aaron Gordon, who's a restricted free agent, who I assume will bring back. You got Fournier, you got a couple other guys who, decent talent. And then they went with the defensive presence of Bamba, who I think he's a guy who would come in and he's going to make an immediate impact. Hopefully will start, and so he can get, real minutes with first team. But, I mean, he only averaged, 12 points at Texas this year? I mean, he has showed no offensive game. I know there's reports saying he can shoot a 3 now, which would just be magical in my mind. But didn't really like them. Gave him a C+ because I like Bamba, but I didn't like the fit.
All right, let's see. We get the Philadelphia 76ers, which were a team that, everybody thinks is right on the edge. I mean, when I look at this draft, though, I don't see anything pushing this team over the top with this draft.
No, I will say they take with the 10th pick. I'm pretty sure they take the hometown Mikal Bridges. 21 going 22 years old, older guy in the draft, but was a great guy at Villanova. Just a perfect fit. And then you hear while he's still giving the press conference that they've traded him to the Suns for Zaire Smith, who I don't get it. They need to be in. They're still building for the future with that Zaire Smith pick. Why? You have 2 stars in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, good other young guys. Why are you taking Zaire Smith, who I don't even know? I mean, the only thing because they also took Landry Shamet and Shake Milton, all took perimeter guys. The only thing in my mind is that they got to be done with their guard situation. They have to just be moving away from Markelle Fultz.
Yeah, that has to be the only thing it could be. Then we got the Phoenix Suns, who I think most people thought did well here, Bryce. You had DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, even Okobo looks like a good player.
Yeah, I gave them. It was going to be an A- because I like Ayton. I thought he was the most solid one pick. I would have taken Luka because obviously you can tell I'm all about Luka. But I ended up giving an A+ after the Mikal Bridges trade because I think Bridges is one of the most solid NBA-ready guys in the draft. They go out and get Ayton, pair him up with Devin Booker. A lot of comparisons right now to Kobe and Shaq. I'm not sure if that's what it's going to be. But a guy with a great offensive game. He needs to show more motor on defense and things like that. But I think he's already got NBA arsenal for a big man. And then to go out and get Mikal Bridges, who I love, thought he should be on the Sixers, thought he could have gone even closer to 6 or 7 with the Bulls. And then Elio Kobo, they just gave him actually got a 4-year deal, with the last 2 being team options. So apparently they're really high on him.
Yeah, the Portland Trailblazers took Anthony Simmons, and then out of IMG Academy, Gary Trent, What's your take on the Trailblazers here?
You think of the Trailblazers, you think of two people. You think of Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, their two best players.
I don't.
When
I think of the Trailblazers, I think of Jack Ramsey and Bill Walton. How about you, Steve?
Same thing.
There you go. So go ahead, though.
Battling Jack Sikma and the Supersonics for all those years.
Yeah.
Oh. But, yeah, I thought, I think of them anyway. I'm not, I can hardly even be sure who you guys are talking about anymore. You guys are,
Right. The sad part is, Mike, Bryce wasn't even born when those guys played. So.
Bryce's parents weren't even born when those guys played.
Yeah, but so they had the Lillard McCollum backcourt's one of the best in the NBA. They've been all-stars. They've been playoff team with the Blazers, and then they go out and take two young guards, and I didn't get it. Anthony Simmons didn't even play. He played a prep year after high school, never even played in college, never played against a professional basketball player. And they take Gary Trent Jr., who I liked. I actually had him late first round in one of my first mock drafts. But why? Why are you guys not taking some kind of forward or somebody, at least a project? You guys are taking these guards who are unproven. I gave them a D, and I didn't like it at all. And I have it written really big by their name. Keita Bates-Diop should have been their pick in that second round with Gary Trent Jr. instead of Gary Trent Jr., a forward guy who'd come in and immediately be productive.
All right, I would agree with you on Diop, but I know Dan Dockich really loves him, so I can't be sold on Diop yet.
You can't.
The next pick, the Sacramento Kings, Marvin Bagley. I don't think anybody can hate on this pick. Bagley's a good player, but since you like Luka.
Yeah, I like Luka, but all the reports of the Kings front office were set on Bagley, which I think is the only problem with this is they're have a lot of bigs now. Willie Cauley-Stein. They have a few other guys a lot of young bigs that they're still taking projects on. But I thought Bagley was a solid pick. Give him a B+ because I think he can be like a smooth 20-point, 10 rebound guy in a couple of years just because of who he is, just his athleticism.
All right, the San Antonio Spurs.
Their pick of Lonnie Walker. I didn't really like Lonnie Walker because of how sporadic he was at Miami. But then you put him in the Spurs organization, who will most definitely calm him down and get him in the best situation to score possible. I gave him a B, borderline B+ for it because I thought Walker is a good fit for him. He's a raw talent that Popovich will surely use in that second unit to be able to score baskets.
All right, Toronto Raptors.
So without any pick, the Raptors somehow, some way managed to get a D from me in this because the Raptors are they won the Eastern Conference before being destroyed by the Cavs, being swept, and I think they're one guy away. I think they should be putting together a package for Kawhi, and I thought they should be willing to move DeMar DeRozan, who's a good player but proven that he can't shoot apparently in the playoffs for some reason. I thought he should have been the one that they should have moved on draft night, get up there, maybe take Michael Porter Jr. or find if they could get, Kawhi or somebody like that. I mean, maybe they tried and I just don't know it, but, they need to try something.
All right, then we got the Utah Jazz. Grayson Allen and Donovan Mitchell could be in the same backcourt. What's your take on that?
That's a lot of shooting in one backcourt. I thought everybody was really high on it. I gave him a B+ for the draft because I thought at that position they couldn't have taken anybody else really. And Grayson Allen's pick is a guy I think that Grayson Allen will come off the bench to begin with. And then, if he hits shots, I thought that he's definitely someone that, if he hits shots, he's definitely someone who can help.
All right.
Lastly, I got...
Good. The other thing is what's your take on Vincent Edwards from Purdue? Because I think that's a solid pick at 52. I think it's a guy that could make their team, maybe.
Naturally, I hate him. Purdue. I'm not gonna say too many good things about him, but I definitely think that he's somebody. He's a versatile guy. Someone who I think if he can polish every area of the game, play defense, find a true position, and I think he's someone who can make that team and maybe make a difference in that second unit.
All right, and then we've got the Washington Wizards, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, Troy
That's
Brown,
the one
a guy
team I would give an F because I don't even think Troy Brown's going to make the team.
I don't know if they're looking for it. They're getting a guard who shot it's like 6'7" guard who shot 27% from three last year, and then you're taking a bad guard and putting him on a team that already has guards. So it didn't make any sense. I gave him a C- for it. Definitely could have been an F.
All right, so when we look at this, we definitely got to have you back once the free agency gets going. But real quick, we got a few minutes left. MVP is going to be announced shortly, I guess tonight, possibly. We'll start with Steve. Steve, who's your MVP of the NBA?
I don't think it's going to be LeBron. I think he's probably.
It doesn't have to. I'm
James
not
Harden.
asking who
Harden.
you think it will be.
James Harden. James Harden.
So you would take James Harden over LeBron?
Yeah, this season I would.
All right, Bryce.
You're saying who will get it is Harden.
No,
who do I think should get it?
Who would be your MVP?
Oh, should. Oh, it's LeBron, and I'm a little LeBron, stan when it comes to these things. I think LeBron is just the most dominant player I've ever seen in my lifetime. I never saw Jordan
Bryce, you're
besides
like
the Wizards,
9.
but
You're 9 years old. You haven't seen anybody else.
I think LeBron deserves it. He carried that team to the finals.
I did know what you say. I think Harden will get it, but I think LeBron deserves it. But I don't think he'll get it.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, I
Mike,
think
who's your
LeBron. LeBron. He carried that team. I mean, the playoffs and nothing. I mean, I don't think you're supposed to count what happens in the finals, are you? Isn't the voting done by the end of the regular season?
Yeah.
No, that's Mr. Basketball, and it's Mr. Basketball. Voting's supposed to be done before the tournament starts, but I don't know about the NBA.
Bryce?
I'm pretty sure that it's actually done during the playoffs. So it's usually the finals. I know a lot of things come in like the finals because they're usually a good player, MVP candidate in the finals. The finals aren't actually counted. It's only it's not rounds that really matter. First or second round probably.
Yeah, I just think LeBron had the best regular season. He was the most valuable player on any team because if you take him off that team, they probably don't even make the playoffs.
Yeah, Mike, this is one time I hope you're right. I hope you're right, Mike. I'll give you this one.
Yeah, well, you have to.
But I think Harden's going to get it.
Every time you've disagreed with me, you've been wrong. Well, yeah, there's no doubt they're going to get to Harden. And, I mean, come on. I don't think LeBron is the greatest clutch player I've ever seen. He doesn't take over the games, but has James Harden done it in the finals? No, he hadn't even been to a finals. I think a lot of that was because Chris Paul was injured. But what the hell? Houston would have beat Cleveland, but you put James Harden on the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're probably the 7th seed.
Yeah,
agreed.
And they're probably gone against the Pacers. Of course, if you'd had fair officiating, they'd been gone against the Pacers anyways. But I want to thank Bryce Fields for coming in today. Make sure you check out thegruelingtruth.net. You can check out all of his NBA articles. You need to start a podcast, Bryce.
I might have to look into that. I'll say I mentioned Braden earlier. He's a good friend of mine, someone who's very, very involved with all sports. Probably the huge IU fan. I'm sure Steve would love to meet you. But I think him and I might have something in the works. We'll see here going forward.
It's overrated to meet Steve.
I'll let him know from Mike.
Bryce, give me a call. We can get Mike off on another project, and you and I can get your buddy and put a nice podcast together. We'll give Mike some other dutiful work to go do and focus on. He's into boxing, so we'll give him a new boxing show or something.
We'll let him.
Bryce, thank you very much for coming on. Enjoy your input, enjoy your conversation, and look forward to working with you again as the college season unfolds, as we start looking at prospects for the next draft, and just keeping an eye on things. So thanks a lot for coming on. Good luck with your studies, and hope to hear from you again real soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, guys. Remember, you can find Survive in Advance on Twitter at Survive the Magic, or just punch in Survive in Advance. You can also find the Survive in Advance Facebook page. You can find the Grueling Truth Facebook page. You can follow the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth on Twitter. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Wherever you hear sports podcasts, you'll find the Grueling Truth. So for Bryce Fields, Steve Risley,
Mike,
yeah,
wait.
What?
Mike, what's our agenda for tomorrow?
I don't have an agenda.
Our topic?
I'm not a politician. Our topic for tomorrow is should kids under the age of 14 be allowed to play tackle?
No. That's Wednesday. Tomorrow we're going to talk about Jameis Winston.
All right, we will then. We'll talk about Jameis Winston.
And Mike, what happens in 30 days?
I don't know. You'll be a year older.
NFL camps open, fellas.
Yeah.
NFL camps open up in the next, starting on early July 16th and going to as late as July 17th. All NFL camps will be in swing within 30 days. So hopefully Mike and I will have our crap together and be able to start really digging into the NFL season, which we know is what we all live for, is NFL football.
Well, Mike always has his crap together, so that means we got to see if Steve will have his crap together. He's a Colts fan, so there's a lot of crap to talk about there.
I'm thinking the luck's back. We're going to the Super Bowl.
Sure you are.
Mike, you got another appointment you got to go take. We'll see you tomorrow.
Tickets. So, all right, guys. For Steve Risley, Bryce Fields, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.